So how do you create a brand that truly represents who you are and the products you sell, as well as building a business that you can scale online? That is what this podcast will help you do. My name is Henry Kaminski Jr., and welcome to the Brand Doctor Podcast.
Let me just make this statement loud and clear. Jersey's here, Jersey's here, Jersey's here.
What is shaking, everybody? Welcome to another Brand Doctor Podcast episode. I was just double checking my audio and I realized that I had the other mic set up. So this would have been one hell of an echoey episode. And I made the switch on the fly. Talk about it. That's what happens when you do 480 something episodes of podcasts. You can make bat-like reflex audibles very, very quickly. We got my man Always Koreshi in the house. What's going on, dude?
What's up, Henry? What's up, everybody?
Oh man, what a freaking weekend. It was super cool, super chill. And then I wake up this morning and the stock market's down 900 points. And I'm like, holy crap. And I'm laughing because I'm like, I even posted it on my my Facebook today. I said, I could go to the mall today and capitalize on some summer sales, or I could just go to my E-Trade account and get some sales on the stock market today. And so I decided to do that instead. And that's a good call, man. It comes to mindset. When my good friend got me into the stock market, really helped me understand what the hell it was and how to leverage it. He said, when things go down, don't worry. Like, this is a long-term play for you. And when it goes down, that's when you buy, and I know not everybody is in those positions, but when you can, and I highly recommend it. I dumped over $1,000 into the market today because I was like, you know what? That's going to turn around, and that $1,000 is going to bring me a 10% return. So I just went in at a minimum. So I'm going to do it. So we had some fun this morning playing the stock market game. So for those folks that are freaking out that everything is down, like Michelle's like, the Dogecoin is down. Yeah. Totally, like, don't worry about it. It's, listen, crypto, I don't know much about, so I don't want to talk about it, but I know it's not going anywhere. I just don't know what it's going to do. But when it comes to the market, when things dip like this is the time to go and buy some stuff on sale.
Anyone that's been holding on to that Bitcoin, we're going to start seeing some uptick.
Yeah, I'm sure. Oh, man. So today we're going to be talking about personal branding versus business branding, but there's a couple of things that are talkable topics that I just want to get out there real quick that I think it's worth mentioning. So I was listening this morning to a podcast and I heard that Zoom, the Zoom is coming out with a translation feature to compete with Google Hangouts, because Google Hangouts, and Google Translate have all of that stuff already. And right now, if you tried to translate on Zoom, you would have to hire a translation person, and it's a big pain in the ass. So Zoom is coming up with this translation. They just acquired a translation startup, and they're going to start offering that in their service. So I'm curious to see what that's going to do.
So is that a live translation?
It's going to be a live translation. Yeah.
So now we can listen to you in Italian without you actually having to speak Italian.
Get ready, guys. Get ready. Oh man. So that was the one thing that I wanted to bring up. So big things over there at Zoom, and then here's another cool topic. So have you ever heard of the Soho House? Have you ever heard of that brand? All right. So I had a client who came up to visit me. Well, they were up in New York City for a big convention, and I decided to go out and meet with him because I don't live too far from New York City. And he was staying at the Soho House. And at the time, I didn't know what the hell it was. The Soho House is an exclusive membership, okay? It's almost like a string of hotels. So the Soho House, when you walk into the Soho House in Manhattan, you feel like you're walking into a house. There's like there's like a living room, and then there's a rooftop pool, and it's like this super exclusive thing. You pay like $3,400 or $3,700 a year for the membership, and then no matter what big city you're in, there's typically a Soho House in that city, and you have access to it. You could stay there, you can hang out there. Yeah, so it's a pretty bougie membership, if you ask me. And I remember going and meeting Franco there, and it was a chill spot. Like, it was a very chill spot, right? Couple interesting things about Soho during COVID, when nobody was going on vacation and nobody was flying or traveling, or right, they maintained 92% retention of their clients, which is definitely worth talking about for a second.
Yeah.
So they were so resilient during COVID. People were like, how the hell did they do that? So the answer is still unknown. But the problem that they're having is that they don't want to expand too quickly because it will perhaps take down the level of quality of service. It will lose the exclusivity factor. They have either it's 159,000 or 59,000. Don't quote me. I think it's more 59,000. They have 59,000 people on a waiting list ready to pay $3,400 a year for the membership, but they're not letting them in. So they're in like a catch-22. They don't want to grow too quickly to lose out on the exclusivity. But here's the problem. In 25 years or 26 years they've been in business, they've never showed a profit. So it's an interesting scenario. And I wanted to bring it up today because we both sell premium services. We both work with exclusive clients, and it's just something to keep in mind. If you're watching this or listening to this right now and you're struggling like the Soho House, there may be some lessons to be learned if you continue to follow them and watch what they do over the next 12 to 24 months, because it's going to be interesting how they're going to leverage this and pull out of this. And maybe this year they actually become profitable. So very interesting stuff. I wanted to throw that out there. So what are we talking about today? Personal brands versus business brands, and which one, because this is the big issue here, which one do we develop first? Which one do we spend the most time on or the most investment in? So we got a couple of things that we want to do before we get into this, is break down personal brands versus business brands. So how about I cover the personal brand side of things and then you cover the business side things, brand. Okay, cool. All right. So the one thing that we need to pay attention to, I shouldn't say one thing, there's a couple things when it comes to building personal brands, is understanding what characteristics of a personal brand do we need to pay attention to leverage. So the first thing is character. When you're building your personal brand, you're building your character, right? How you are going to be perceived, what you stand for, what you don't stand for. So you're building character. Characters connect with characters. That's how Oasis and I became friends and colleagues and now co-hosts. I guess I can officially call you a co-host now. Been doing this for a month and a half, 2 months with me now.
Real, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I appreciate and I applaud your consistency and your effort. Like, that's awesome.
Thank you. No, hey, I mean, it's always a enjoyable conversation, right? So it all feels natural, man.
It does. It's two professionals talking about what they love to talk about the most, and in efforts to help our audience get a better perspective on branding, and whether it be branding yourself or branding your business, and the importance of it. Right. We're gonna do a show next week on, is brand strategy worth it? We talked about in earlier conversations the ROI of branding, but let's talk about next week. Is brand strategy worth it?
Yeah.
So we're going to have a fun conversation. Yeah. So when it comes to personal branding, pay attention to character. You're building your character. So how do you want your character to be portrayed? Okay. The next thing is standards and principles. And again, I just glazed over this, but what do you stand for? And what are the principles that you run your personal brand on? To this day, my wife was teasing. Well, my cousin was teasing me over the weekend because, again, next year we're going to go to the Amalfi Coast in Italy for my wife's 40th birthday. And I told her she's got all these things mapped out already. She's got the whole freaking 7 days planned out already. And I said to her, excuse me, I said to her, can I get one day out of those 7 days where like I could plan something? For the group, not just me and her, but like for everybody. Right. And she was like, what are you planning? Like, what are you planning? And so my cousin chimes in. He's like, Tord, what do you think? Your husband, like, you think he's going to sign us up for miniature golf that day? Like, he's going to put together something cool. So, AKA he knows my standards. And I got something really cool planned that I can't say. It'll leak too quickly. So, but I got something really, really nice planned. But my cousin made a good point. Like, when I like to do things, I like to do them right. And I like to do them with a level of standard. Right? So what are your standards and what are the principles that you run your life on? Okay. When you're building out your personal brand, another thing you should be paying attention to is the importance of conversation. It's a lot harder to have a conversation through your business brand than it is through your personal brand. So pay attention to that. Lean into that. Leverage that. Start to have more conversations, and we're gonna showcase how this is done in a minute, but pay attention to the conversations that you're able to have through your personal brand. Like, for example, on Instagram stories today, we're rolling out a new program, and I'm still hashing out how I want to deliver the program. And I asked them, I said, Instagram fam, what would you rather spend $5,000 on? A 5-week intensive program where at the end of 5 weeks, you're going to get X, Y, Z, and you're going to be hitting the ground running hard? Or do you want a year-long training program that's supportive through community and through back channels and all of that? And right now, the poll is showing that the 5-week intensive is winning. So that tells me that's how we're going to leverage that program or deliver that program, not leverage it, but deliver that program. So, but that's a conversation with my audience, right? They're responding to Henry. So that's why the response is so much greater. Okay. So conversation, which leads to the ultimate connection. Building your personal brand is awesome when it comes to building connection with your audience and people. And you could do that through authenticity, through vulnerability, through story, through live communication like we're doing here, right? Orange County websites. Brand Doctor always does it right. Orange County websites. You know it's going to be worth it, right? This is the conversation that we're having, the connection that we're having with our audience, right? So very, very powerful stuff when it comes to personal branding. So those are some traits. Those are some highlights of the importance of building your personal brand. So I'm going to hand it over to Awais now, and he's going to go over the business brand side of things.
So before we jump into the business brand, Henry, I want to get your view on this. So this is pertaining to connection and character. All right. So Robert Greene, who wrote the 48 Laws of Power, he has a specific chapter that talks about theatrics and putting on a show. And I was like, you know what, this seems a lot like what you could incorporate into a personal brand. However, it's borderline inauthentic. It just seems like, so to what extent, where do you draw the line when it comes to becoming a character and having that theatricality to your brand that entertains, that really pulls people in, but it's not in any way inauthentic to who you are?
It's a great question. Right? It's a really great question. And always, you and I share a very similar thought process on the theatrical side of marketing, especially on social media. And you know, I'll be the last to throw out all that flash to grab somebody's attention. Like, I throw it out there so subtly that you don't even know I'm doing it. You know what I mean? And I think that's a tasteful way of doing it. I guess it comes down to being tasteful. Like, when I see people like snapshotting their QuickBooks account and I was an asshole that did that too. You know, I used to do that shit too, and it was so stupid at the end. My wife was like, "Why are you doing that? Like, nobody cares." Right? But I thought it was like, "Oh, I got to show people that I make money doing this stuff so they pay me." No, that's not why they're going to hire me.
The ones that want to hire you are not going to look at that. If anything, they're going to say, "Hey, am I feeding this guy's lifestyle?" Right?
Exactly.
Anything, right? Like the ones that you want.
Exactly. Yeah. The people flexing. Yeah. like you know, it's like so there has to be an entertaining aspect to this, right? And if I could give you any piece of advice, so this comes easy to me because I have a personality that's big, and I know that, right? And so it's easy for me to come out here and make fun of myself and share my personality, and that being the entertaining factor. But there's other people that may not have that, right? He may not have that, or she may not have that. So what do I recommend? Connect with somebody that does and work together. That's an easy way of doing it. It's a very easy way of doing it. And what may potentially happen, I'm not saying it will, but some of that personality and character of that other person may start to rub off on you, and you may start to pick up on that.
Or if it's organic enough, it will bring out your own natural personality that does entertain, or that does allow for other people to be able to connect in that audience. So, but yeah, I mean, I when I looked at that particular chapter and that particular, just it was that statement, and I was like, well, to what extent, right? It can't be that you're becoming some sort of a poser then. Right. Mm-hmm. So I was curious because, again, like I said, I mean, you've got a really strong footing on the personal branding side, and obviously you bring an entertaining component into a lot of your posts and what you do here. So I want to get your feedback on that. Is like, okay, well, for those of us that are now slowly stepping into the personal branding space, what do we do there?
Yeah.
To what extent do we make that?
This is some great commentary from the audience, and I want to share it with everybody. Orange County website says, I never seen Chris Doe or Valuetainment or Russell Brunson show their QuickBooks accounts. And then Beads by Des says, how about if you show off sales via pie chart by a percentage, not dollar amounts? Perhaps. Yep. To inspire. Yeah, perhaps that could work. I think if you have before and after pics of your sales for clients' work, you could probably show it. Yeah. There was another one here. You don't have to show the flex. Show the case studies and the work. And the work is explained so people can just see it and know it without even seeing the flex. We see the likes, we see the comments, and we see the people who've paid you.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Show the evidence of your impact in your clients, in your client's business.
Right.
That's what matters.
Totally. All right, cool. Your fans know you're good already. Yeah. That's fantastic. Absolutely. Yeah.
And look, that brings us into the business component, because really, when people make a decision to buy from you, of course, they want to be able to connect with you. However, on the business side, make it all about the customer, or make a large percentage about the customer. And just yesterday, I told Henry about this. I was like, just yesterday, I was on my morning walk, and as soon as I get done, I'm like, man, all this stuff is coming up. And I distilled it down to 80% about your ideal client and 20% about yourself or about your own business. And I'll tell you why that's important. Because when you take all of that and now you start putting all your capital into a sales and marketing effort, it will not have gone to waste. It will have been meaningfully connected. It have been used in an area where it's meaningfully connects with your customers and with the right customers. And I'll tell you why again. So what's that 80% composed of? When I say client-centric, try to figure out exactly what the product market fit is. And then on top of that, figure out, again, we talk about this over and over again, who is the ideal client?
Mm-hmm.
Who is the ideal client? What outcomes are they wanting to achieve? That's their desire. What do they desire to accomplish?
Yep.
Right? Yep. What are some of the common challenges that you're seeing as overlaps that are showing up in every single client or ideal client that you talk to? They're showing up with that same problem over and over again. Mm-hmm. Speak about that. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. What are they trying to avoid? That's another one.
Right.
What is that pain that or that worst possible outcome that they're trying to avoid? Yeah. And then more importantly, that's your 80%. And now this is where the most interesting 20% comes in, at least from the way that I've divided it. Mm-hmm. Why should your ideal client select or consider your business over your competitor? This has the differentiator or differentiation component built into it. Mm-hmm. But then this also allows for you to start now talking about yourself, about your company, your standards, how you deliver on that. Mm-hmm. So you still end up addressing all of the things that you would address anyways, but now it's organized into that 80-20%. And now as you're taking this into a more impactful message, you're driving it out there and you're still basing this all from the client's perspective.
Yeah. And over time, you're going to start to get better at that. Okay. And one of the things that I would say is, like, that's why it's frustrating to see mediocre competitors achieving more business than you, because they're just better marketers.
Yeah.
Right. So pay attention to how they're marketing and because you have the talent, you have the capability. And if you don't, you'll hire it. Right. So one of the things that I started to do more often, I would say over the past year or so, is really get better at storytelling, become more prepared for these live streams. So, we always tease you guys, but we have an outline that sits in front of both of us while we do these. So it keeps this whole conversation on rails. And it's fantastic. I can see the quality of these videos and these podcasts getting better and better because we're coming more prepared, right? So it comes down to Orange County website's point. It's like how you do this, right? How do you create that customer-centric marketing, right? So I'll give you a quick example. Yesterday, I put out a post on Instagram and I said, before you get cool, get clear. Because there's so many people out there that want the flashy brand identity. They want the slick funnel. They want all of that jazz, but they're not clear on who the hell they're serving. Yeah. Right. So it's like, you pull up to, it's again, I love using this analogy, but it's the hot chick, the hot girl, the hot guy with no personality at all. Yeah. And that's a huge, like, wah, 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 wah. Like it is. Cause like you're hoping that person is going to come in and like really light the room up, and they come in flat. So I asked them, so I put in the caption of that. I said, let me ask you guys a question. Have you ever gone to a restaurant and walked into a bathroom and it was absolutely rancid inside? Like overflowing toilet, shit all over the place, gross, smells, there's piss all over the urinal. Like I'm painting this picture for you guys on purpose, right? And you walk out of there and you're like, Jesus Christ, if the bathroom looks like this, what the hell does the kitchen look like? Mm-hmm. So I posed the question. Do you want people's opinion of you and your online identity to be the same? Yes or no?
That's true.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same thing. You walk into somebody's house and it's filthy. You're going to walk out of there going, oh my God.
It's going to make a lasting impression.
Yes. And it's the same thing for your brand identity. So when you create those moments and those, those vivid experiences or stories, people are like, I don't want my online presence to look like a shitty bathroom. And then they start thinking, right? Michelle's saying specific words you use in your branding, correct example, exclusive, elite. Yeah. Those work to your advantage too. But I guess the point that I'm trying to make is storytelling is a huge part of being able to sell the business. And it just comes down to being a good marketer, a good storyteller. You may not have the best product at first, but if you're good at that, you're going to get better, especially if you invest back in. I was talking to one of my neighbors. He owns a couple businesses, does pretty well for himself. And I was talking to him about investing in some things. And I said, what would you do if you came into, some money? And he said, well, before I put it all in the market, I would bet on myself with a lot of that money first. And I was like, okay. I mean, he goes, because I trust I'd rather put myself at risk. Right. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe he didn't use those exact words, but I really liked where he's coming from.
Yeah. He'd rather bet on himself.
Right. Than like the market. Yeah, the market's going to bring you some return, of course, over time, but it's risky too. So like, So he bets more on himself first, and then takes what's left over and puts it into other various income streams. And so I want to share that with you guys because I thought that was really profound. You might have heard that before, but yeah, he trusts himself more. Yeah. Like, don't you? I remember hearing it like years ago. I was told that like the best investment you can make is in your business and yourself. Yeah.
Hone in on good.
Well, here's a good question from Michelle. Does it always have to be a rag to riches story or simply a heart-wrenching story of struggle and comeback? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, overcoming adversities, that's always the one where what people follow, right? It's that up and down. No one really wants just, hey, you start off on the low and then get all the way back up. I mean, if you really look at the story arcs of a lot of, whether it be the movies or some of the books, there's some literature that classic literature that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
They all have almost like a peaks and valleys type of storytelling and narrative that goes along with it, that takes you through an emotional journey.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I would describe it. It's kind of like, Donald Miller's story brand, right?
Yeah.
He talks about that, where it's an emotional journey. And so when you're doing this storytelling and whether it be on a live podcast or even in your posts, we have to take them through that exact same sort of emotions. When we're talking about the problems, of course, they feel like they're weighed down, but when there's a solution, there's like this openness. They don't feel as suffocated anymore.
Right.
They feel like Henry's coming in to help them through that challenge, or help them overcome a specific revenue challenge, perhaps.
Yeah.
Or a specific,
I don't think it needs to be a rags to riches story every time, right? I don't think it needs to be a rags to riches story. What it needs to be is impactful.
Yeah.
So like, and throat grabbing, right? And that's why I use the dirty bathroom story, because it's impactful. People, I don't care who you are. If you're listening to this or watching this, you have experienced a wretched bathroom in your life before, publicly. You have. And you know the feeling and vibe you got when you walked in. That's what I'm looking at, right? That's what I'm. And then how do you apply that same story to what it is that you do and to what your clients are experiencing? And the reason why I bring that story up is because a lot of my clients struggle with their online identity. It's all over the place. It's fragmented to hell. It doesn't represent who they really are. And they're frustrated because they're really good at what they do and they're not getting the respect that they deserve. And that's what it comes down to. And they have a lot of expertise and they don't know what to do with it. That's frustrating. Talk about feeling like you're in a straitjacket. Like, again, you see what I'm doing? I'm using words like straitjacket.
Yeah.
Right. I want you to.
You're caged.
I want you to see like I want you to get the meta. What does Mo always say? Like the meta part of what we're telling you. I'm like giving you the examples as I'm teaching it to you, and I want you to make sure you pick up on them. So you get them. I don't want to beat a dead horse there, but you got a couple more here. So client centric, so product market fit. There's two others that you mentioned about.
Yeah, productization and scalability. And I think you touch on this a little bit, because productization is something that you've been talking a lot about as well. Mm-hmm. And I think that also has to do with the fact that if you're wanting to go, step away from, selling your products. Let's say if you're a coach or anything like that, if you're having live sessions and you maybe want to take that and maybe virtualize it and turn that into something that's a little bit more on a recurring side. Mm-hmm. So, and then of course that dives into scalability, because now you are able to extend your business and expand your business beyond what it currently is, and it's still be able to very seamlessly fulfill on exactly what's been promised.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what do you think about that?
I like it. I like it. I think the big thing is understanding that the business brand is what's really going to create the transaction.
Yeah.
Create the transaction. That's where the money is actually going to be exchanged, right? And being able to scale that in a way that becomes bigger than you. And that's where you get the best of both worlds when you practice building your personal brand intentionally, but also branding your business brand at the same time. Because I always say that your personal brand, your business brand is an offshoot or a mirror of your personal brand. Yeah. So, like when you see these brands out there, like these personal brands, like Rich Fresh out in LA, he's like a fashion designer, and you see his presence online. It's very, very clean. Like it's very posh because that's his brand. Like that's him. Yeah. That's also his business brand. But one of the things that we have to pay attention to is the cohesiveness. And this is what I want you guys to start to visualize is when you start to design your personal brand and business brand together, it's going to be like it's like, I always think of Voltron, but I'm dating myself here. And it's like a cartoon in the 80s I used to watch, but like, that's when everything comes together.
Yeah.
Right. That's when everything comes together. And then you're going to start to create this customer experience that is going to be different. So your point before always, why should somebody buy me over somebody that does exactly what I do? Again, I'm tripling down on that. The answer is how I treat them, my expertise. That's another big differentiating factor. Like there's a reason why I have coaches. They have a different level of expertise that I want to tap into.
And can I add one thing to that, Henry?
Sure.
Perspective. Perspective is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. So as business owners, and we're guilty of this as well. As business owners, we get so tunnel visioned into our own businesses that sometimes we need an outside perspective coming in and giving us a clearer and a much wider view than what we're used to. And it's in that, it's in our periphery sometimes that we don't see some opportunities or even some threats that are showing up.
Yeah.
That, again, because we're so tunnel vision, we're not able to see that. Yeah. We're like, okay, well, now this person that came in, now this advisor that we've hired comes in and tells us, hey, by the way, have you noticed this?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I don't think it's a sometimes. I think it should be an always.
Always.
Like, I got to tell you, when I just brought my mindset coach back in to my board of directors last week, and we had our first call on Thursday, and man, it felt good to have her back because she just we just hit the ground running. It was like 7 months never went by, and we hit the ground running. And I left that call like floating because I was like, man, do I miss that perspective? And she saw things, she highlighted things and brought them to my attention that I did not see. I'll give you a quick example. When I was a kid, I had a big mouth, and my mouth used to get me in trouble. And I'll never forget it. Remember three-way calling? Right? Remember three-way calling? Well, I remember my father I used to drive my father crazy in high school and middle school, because I'd be on, and we didn't have call waiting, so I would be on the phone with like girls, and like for 3 hours at night. My father would freak out, right? But anyway, you remember those days always, right? And he would pick up the phone and he'd be like, "Go to bed," and he has this like deep voice, and like he would freak everybody out. So I'm on the phone talking to this girl. And now looking back, there was this guy, he's kind of a big bully. He wasn't a nice kid. And she got me talking about him on the phone. And she didn't tell me that he was on three-way listening.
Oh, shit.
So he comes on the phone and he's like, "You're done, pal." So fast forward, I'm a freshman in high school. I'm walking to school. I get to school and it was raining. So we all had to wait instead of outside the school. We had to all wait in the gymnasium. And I remember walking in, and this little girl, her name is Margaret. She like grabbed me and she like brings me into this crowd of people in the middle of the gymnasium. She's like, come on, let's go. And she's like ushering me around, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And all of a sudden, I look out the corner of my eye and I see these two kids, and I know exactly who they were. They were like these two badass kids that were always in trouble. They come barrel assing into the gymnasium, and you could see they're like looking for somebody. And all of a sudden, the one kid catches me, and they come at me, and the two of them beat the living shit out of me in a gymnasium full of people. And these kids were much bigger than me, right? So now we have to go down. It wasn't a month after that, I'm in class, and this kid starts picking on my clothes. Because again, I didn't have the nice clothes. I didn't have any of that. Like, I used to wear Paco jeans with these big silver buckles on them. They were hideous looking, and they were like 5 times too big for me, right? Because my father was like, "Oh, I'm just going to buy you the bigger ones so you grow into them," right? And I remember being in class and this kid making fun of my pants. And the next period was lunch, and so he's sitting at lunch, and I'm boiling. And this guy was a junior. I was a freshman. And I went up to him, and he was sitting down, and I was like kind of standing over, and I was like, "You're making fun of my pants?" And I started to get mouthy. And he stood up and he looked at me. And this kid, I don't know who it was, but in the background, all I heard was, "Hit him." And this kid cracked me so hard right in the left of my eye. I went out. Again, full cafeteria full of people. So these two moments in my life, I was 13, 14 years old, have made a major impact. And what my mindset coach, when I explained this to my mindset coach said, "Henry, this is the trauma that you've never dealt with in 20-something, 30-something years. I mean, you were 13 years old."
Wow.
So fast forward that into my adult life. There's been times where I felt afraid, felt scared, felt unsafe, because my inner Henry went back to those moments in my life when I got my ass kicked. Those were the 2 times I got my ass kicked pretty damn good. After that, I started learning how to hit back. But I never got into many fights after that. Once I got to Long Branch, it was like a whole different experience. And I'll talk about that in another story. But the point that I want to make is your mindset is everything. And you can't hold on to things. You can't hold on to things from your past because it's not real. And what my mindset coach said was, when you start to get angry, when you start to get frustrated, when you start to feel like you're less than in a conversation or wherever you are, you got to call time out, and you got to remember that you are safe. There's nobody that's going to hit you across the head. Two people aren't going to jump out of a crowded thing and kick the shit out of you. You know, that's one of my biggest fears, is being misinterpreted for someone else and taking a bullet for it. It's my biggest fear. It's my biggest fear. Wow. And it comes back down to those two moments in my life. And it goes to show, like, you gotta, I don't know how the hell we got into this conversation today, but I think it's worth talking about, because a lot of what we do today stems from what happened to us when we were kids. And it holds us back.
That's true.
We don't ask the questions that we should ask. And we get ourselves in trouble because of it. How many people get married that shouldn't have got married? How many people get divorced that maybe shouldn't have got divorced? Completely different situation and topic, but think about how far your business could have come if you asked the right questions, hired the right people. You weren't afraid to make the decision that you knew you needed to make. Okay, so I want you guys to think about that. Michelle says, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing, Henry. I know, I appreciate you. And listen, this is what I'm here for. Because I know I'm not the only one that suffers from this. So over time, you get stronger. And you start to create affirmations like, what if your son, you know, this is the one thing Chris told me the one day. He was like, what if your son came to you and was feeling less than and felt like he was getting taken advantage of, and, you know, the list goes on. What would you tell your son? How would you coach your son? How would you mentor your son? And that just completely rewires my brain. So if you would so he said, Henry, if you would mentor your son that way, why aren't you mentoring yourself that way? Your business model should not change because of who you're talking to.
Yeah.
Your principles and values should not change because of who you're talking to. Your standards should not change because of who you're talking to.
Yeah. You got to stay consistent across the board.
That's it. Yeah. So I knew I was going to tie it back around. I just didn't know how, but it came to me.
and that's the benefit of storytelling right there. You're able to bring that.
Yeah. And that's what it was extremely hard for me to do. I would always go into either super personal and never be able to tie it back, or all business and not do anything personal. And people like, well, what makes you different? Right. And so over the years, you get better at it. I'm still saying to myself, I still have work to do, and I still could be a better storyteller. I could still be better at it. And I'll always strive to be a better person than I am today, tomorrow. And that's the whole part of being an entrepreneur and evolving your business. Right. I wouldn't want to be doing anything else, honestly.
So maybe we should have a discussion around how to become a better storyteller, because I mean, I think that connects to personal brands. And so what do you think about that?
You want to do that today, or you want to do it?
I think we're down to a very small window.
We got 10 minutes.
But I would say, I think that's probably a longer discussion, but I would, I would want to hear, what your pointers are going to be on that. because, man, I struggle with that myself.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's a great comp. If you guys want us to talk about that in a future episode, drop it in the comments, and we'll make that happen. We'll make that happen sooner than later. But there's two other things that I want you guys to pay attention to when it comes to personal brand, visual brand, personal brand, and business brand. It's your products. Like, your business brand is your products. And if you're not properly branding your products via your business brand, your business is constantly going to be wrapped around you, and you're going to only be able to accomplish so much. So pay attention to that, because if you want to create something that's bigger than you, then you have to productize your offerings. You have to brand your business in tandem. Somebody asked before, I think it was Orange County Websites, how do you brand from an aesthetic standpoint, your personal and your business? Do you use the same brand colors? I would, but you don't have to. You got to brand yourself, and you got to brand your business for your clients. So all of those questions need to be answered by your ideal client, and you need to design the brand for your ideal client. Before we run out of time, I want to talk about these two things that I have up on the screen. I know if you're listening to this on the podcast, you won't be able to see it, but I'm highlighting the Jeff Bezos empire and what he was able to do with his personal brand. He was able to create Audible and Twitch and Alexa and Zappos and acquire Whole Foods, and it all started
Washington Post.
Yeah, from him. It all started from him. So this is the power of personal branding. We have one more example too. Richard Branson. Look at the brands he's been able to create from him. Virgin Australia, Virgin Media, Virgin Atlantic, Virgin Holidays, Virgin Mobile, Virgin Trains. I didn't even know some of these. Virgin Mobile France, Virgin Mobile Canada. Crazy. And now he's got Virgin Galactic. That's, it's brand new. That's why it's not featured in this illustration. But this is the power of personal brands. So the sky's the limit. I'm showing you two outrageous examples. You don't have to be the next Bezos or the Branson, but I'm sure that you could be doing a lot more than what you're doing right now. And so here's the actionable step that I want you guys to take, because this gets lost in translation. So the real answer to leveraging your personal brand and business brand, and what should I be focusing in on? What I've seen over the years is all businesses start with a personal brand, because you are the brand at first. And then you start to develop your products and your services and all of that. And now you start to productize them and brand them. And now you transition from personal brand to business brand, because now you have a SKUs. You have SKUs of services that need to be branded. But here's what we need to do. You don't have to go out on social media and create 16 different accounts on Instagram because you're running 16 different businesses. No, don't do that. That is the quickest way to fail and to overwhelm yourself. Here's what I suggest you do. Focus on your personal brand on social media. It's the quickest way to grow. And leverage your personal brand for social media. And get out there and advocate for your business brand. And this is where your sales funnel is very, very important. It's like getting on the subway. When you get on the subway, that tube is going to take you to a very specific location, and you got to make sure you get on the right tube. So I don't know how I say that, because how many subways I used to take the wrong one in the city so many times. Forget it. I do wind up in the Bronx, and I would need to be in Queens. So the point that I'm trying to make is, when you leverage your personal brand on social, you're building your audience, you're building your tribe, and then you're building a sales funnel to direct them to your business brand. And your business brand is going to actually make the transactions for you. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's the big takeaways. Leverage social with your personal, drive them through your sales funnel to your business brand. So one is not more important than the other. They both need to be leveraged if you want to grow and scale your expertise.
And look, positioning is everything. Positioning your personal brand and positioning your business. And I'll tell you how. Okay, and it's really from, like you were talking about, mindset. And I was talking about this. There's an anxious brand or an anxious business that's led by anxiety, and then there's a business that's led with confidence. If you're leading your business with anxiety, you are uncertain in terms of how you're positioned in the marketplace. You lack consistency in your message, and you lack consistency in your image. And guess what? As a result of that, your customers that you probably haven't even defined as your ideal customers are probably looking at you as one of many. If you're the confident brand, you have dialed into exactly who it is that you want to serve. And you've got a clear-cut message in terms of how you want to be able to communicate to them, and they're actually connecting with you. And guess what? As a result of that, with a polished online image, you're now seen as a one of a kind. Your customers see you as one of a kind. And guess what? You're a confident brand.
Yeah. When you open up your social media every morning and you get comments like, "Thank you, I appreciate inspiration, you're someone that I aspire to be, you're doing the right thing, you're the goods." When you get these types of messages, it reminds you why you do what you do. And, I just finished reviewing a logo design with a client this morning, and I'll show it to you. It'll be published next week, because it's got to get produced a little bit. I wanted to produce it a little bit, but you know what he said? As I'm going through the different logo concepts, he says to me, we get to one, and he goes, "Every time I see," and he said the name of the company, Delaney Policy Groups. He says, "Every time I see it now, I get happy." And I'm like, that's all you had to say to me, because it just reminded me of why I do what I do.
Yeah.
Because now this guy's going to go on after we finish his identity, and he's going to be proud. That company is going to be more impactful. He's going to create change. He's a lobbyist. He works with big companies, right? So he makes some serious moves. He gets big things moving. And to see him rolling with this type of confidence now is why I do what I do. And everybody deserves that. Everybody.
Yeah.
With it, asterisks, of course. Everybody that decides that it's time to put in the work. You're not getting that by playing it safe. You're not getting that by doing mediocre work or half-assing your business. I'll leave you with this, guys. The more you receive, the more you give. The more you give, the more you will receive. That flies in every aspect of your life. I don't care if you're raising kids. I don't care if you're starting a business. I don't care if you're in a marriage, starting a relationship with a significant other. Those two lines are how I run my business. So when I am not closing sales, I'm not generating the revenue that I want to generate, I look at how much I am giving in different areas of my life. And if I'm not giving, it shows. It shows. So I hope you guys got some nuggets out of today's episode. I really enjoyed this one. I know we went a little longer. I try not to take them more than 40, but we're at an hour now. So let's chill. I'm going to chop this one up into multiple little videos over the course of the month. So you guys can take this in bite-sized pieces. But a couple of things I want you to do. One is, if you're looking for some one-on-one branding help, make sure that you book a brand assessment with me. And you could do that through uniquedesignz.net/brand accelerator app, or if you just go to uniquedesignz.net and hit the button, you'll see it. The other thing I want you to do is make sure that you're subscribing to this podcast, this YouTube channel. You're writing reviews, you're dropping comments, and you're interacting, because we want to interact with you, right? So we are all about helping you take your brand to the next level. That's why we spend the time. That's why we dedicate this time on Mondays and Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. And if you're listening to this on a podcast and you want to come live and hang out with us, that's the time to do it. So appreciate all of you. We'll see you Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. And love you guys. And we will see you guys on the next one real soon. Take care.
See you on Wednesday.